Hey Star Warriors, StarGeek here. I'm back again to talk about the original Star Wars Marvel comic books that span from 1977 to 1986. In the last episode, I reviewed the first 3 issues of the series, and today, I'm gonna finish off the vintage comic adaptation of A New Hope with issues 4, 5, and 6. I'll be covering the plot summary, mistakes, continuity errors, best quote, best panel, and end each issue by rating it on a scale of 1 to 10. Without further ado, let's take another look at Marvel Star Wars, beginning with issue number 4, In Battle with Darth Vader. I want to start with the cover. The ominous image of Darth Vader's mask looms above Luke, Ben, and Leia. Unlike the cover of the first issue, Vader is finally depicted with the correct coloring, even if the characters below him look a bit strange. Luke appears to be wearing tights whilst firing upon Darth's oversized hand. Obi-Wan is wielding a colorless saber and is decked out in green garb. I had no idea that they had such colorfully dyed robes on Tatooine. And Princess Leia seems to have stolen Dorothy's ruby slippers. Other than those quirks, this is a really compelling cover. The slogan, "The Battle with Darth Vader, to the Death," draws you right into the story. I'm assuming that you've already seen the Star Wars movies, so I'm gonna skim over the plot summaries a bit. This issue picks up with our heroes jumping into the trash compactor. After narrowly escaping the quickly enclosing walls, Luke and Leia search for the Falcon, pursued by stormtroopers. They come across a huge trench that they swing across to meet up with the others. Meanwhile, Obi-Wan Kenobi encounters Darth Vader, engaging in a lightsaber duel. As Old Ben is struck down, the rest of the crew escapes the immense space station just in time. Overall, this is an okay issue. It does a decent job of portraying the events of this section of the film, but it just didn't give anywhere close to the same sense of urgency, excitement, or intensity that we got in the movie. The trash compactor scene simply doesn't incite any panic. The trench seems like a very minor inconvenience, and the lightsaber battle to the death goes by too quickly. The actual plot points are still there, but the emotion isn't. That being said, this issue is relatively free of quirks and inconsistencies. The beginning of the comic has a very strange recap narration of what's happened in the story so far, beginning with, "We're kind of in a hurry this issue, so pay attention." It's out of place and a bit distracting, but it's not a huge deal. Some lines that were removed from the final cut of the film made it into the comic, such as Han's quote, "Getting back to the Falcon is going to be like flying through the 5 fire rings of Fornax." By far the weirdest part comes near the end of the comic, as Vader slays Obi-Wan. In the panel where Ben is killed, his calm-accepting appearance he has in the film is replaced with a very surprised and grotesque-looking sketch. And in the panel right next to it, Vader uses his lightsaber to actually lift up Ben's robes without cutting through them. I don't know what Kenobi's outfit is made out of, but whatever the Galactic Tailors use must be pretty strong. The artwork is about on par with the past issues, still with Carmen Infantino's strangely over-exaggerated facial expressions and jagged outlines. So, what are the best quote, best panel, and my rating of this issue? The best quote has to come from Obi-Wan. "You perceive its full power as little as a spoon perceives the taste of food." It's such a weird and quirky analogy that really stands out, by far one of Ben's strangest statements. The best panel comes from page 13, where Obi-Wan and Vader are locked in battle, staring each other down. Overall, this is a very important piece of the story full of so many iconic Star Wars moments, even with its less energetic pace, earning issue number 4, In Battle with Darth Vader, 7 out of 10 indestructible robes. Next up, issue number 5, Lo, the Moons of Yavin. The story starts back up with the Millennium Falcon fleeing the Death Star and managing to destroy its Imperial pursuers. But with a tracking device planted on the smuggler's ship, Vader and Grand Moff Tarkin soon have the full whereabouts of the rebel base on Yavin's 4th moon. When the technical readouts to the Empire's space station have been analyzed and a weakness found, the rebels hop into action to destroy the weapon once and for all. Looking at the cover, there's a lot to talk about. We have an action-packed image showing the Death Star attacking the rebel base on Yavin, with the tagline, "Luke Skywalker strikes again," and Luke telling his Wookiee friend, "Hurry Chewbacca, we're being attacked by the Death Star." Besides some minor errors, like the coloring of Han's jacket and the rebel pilot helmets is brown, Chewbacca wielding a clunky blaster in place of his iconic bowcaster, or the fact that Luke never wore that outfit while he was at the base in the film, the Death Star is what has me caught up. Instead of using its one powerful ion cannon, it seems to be firing upon the base with 2 much smaller laser beams, which barely make any impact on the sturdy stone walls. It's also far too close to the moon, with the rebel headquarters appearing to not be on anything with a real atmosphere, completely surrounded by space. Not to mention the fact that the Death Star itself never even fires a shot at the base, rendering the quotes and drawings on the cover inaccurate. This issue is not off to a great start continuity-wise. This is, nevertheless, a pretty decent chapter in this story. A bit of exciting action, nice imagery, fun quipping between characters, and even a great scene between Biggs and Luke that is partially missing from the flick. This scene was cut entirely from the theatrical version of the film, but when George Lucas came back to his movies for the 1997 special editions, this formerly deleted portion was placed back in. Almost. Most of the scene is there, Luke reuniting with his childhood friend and being introduced to Red Leader, but a large portion of Red Leader's dialogue is erased. It's in the comic book and the original deleted scene, but cut from the special edition due to its conflicting continuities with the other films.
I met your father once when I was just a boy. He was a great pilot. You've got half the skill he had, you'll do all right.
Red Leader claims to have met Anakin Skywalker when he was just a boy, praising him as a great starfighter pilot and a respected Jedi Knight. It's nice to see this formerly cut bit of the story here in the comic. But that leads me into the continuity errors and quirks of the issue. For some unexplained reason, Red Leader and Red Squadron are now referred to as Blue Squadron, and Blue Leader tells Luke the story of meeting Anakin Skywalker. On top of that, the cockpit of the Millennium Falcon is much larger than it should be, with Luke even sitting on a canonically non-existent bench. And this isn't really an inconsistency, but Han Solo clearly seems to have no respect for his elders, calling the perfectly composed General Dodonna an old coot. Another thing to note is the mind-numbing amount of exposition that's laid out to us. For a young fan in the 70s who only had this comic run to remember the films by, it makes sense to describe all of the precise actions and details. But in an age where the average Star Wars fan has seen the movie at least 1,000 times, having to read through all this yellow text feels like a chore. It's very nitpicky, but it really stood out to me. The artwork is decent, but Chewbacca still looks more similar to an ape-like Bigfoot-esque creature more than a Wookiee. And the TIE Fighter pilots are nowhere near the look seen in the film, with weird insignias on their unfamiliarly designed helmets. This trend of TIE pilots depicted inaccurately in the Marvel comics actually occurs pretty often throughout the entire series, but we'll get to that another time. Overall, Infantino's art is pretty consistent with the last comic books. Now it's time to rate its best components. The best quote here is from Luke's childhood friend Biggs. "It's gonna be like old times, little buddy. We're a couple of shooting stars that'll never be stopped." Every time that Biggs Darklighter makes an appearance, I always wish that we got to see more of him. There are quite a few panels in this issue that almost earn their place as the best in the comic, all seeming very cinematic and attention-grabbing. But this shot of the Millennium Falcon soaring above Yavin 4 beats the rest out. This moon has always had one of the most incredible aesthetics out of all the planets in the movies, and it's depicted very well here. Overall, this story has good build-up and a number of fun bits of dialogue and artistry, earning issue number 5, Lo the Moons of Yavin, 7 out of 10 old coots. Finally for today, issue number 6. Is this the final chapter? We've made it. The end of the Marvel film adaptations of the first Star Wars. The issue begins with the Rebel X-Wings approaching the Death Star and making their attack runs on the station. As more and more rebels are killed off, it's now up to Luke Skywalker to destroy the Imperial base, racing against the approaching TIE Fighter of Darth Vader. With the help of Han Solo, Luke makes the final shot, blowing up the Death Star and earning the Rebellion their first major victory against galactic oppression. This issue is insanely impressive compared to the rest of this film adaptation. The cover for this book is definitely one of the most attention-grabbing. Bright colors, dramatic poses, and exciting catchlines. There's only one huge problem that I have with this. It's one of the most deceptive covers I've ever seen, with lines such as, "Today you die, Luke Skywalker, this is your final battle," and "See Luke Skywalker battle Darth Vader, this is basically 20th century clickbait." Never do we see father and son have a lightsaber duel as depicted in the cover. The closest thing we get to a battle that we see is Vader's laser blast completely missing Luke's X-Wing in flight. Also, I have no idea where they're meant to be dueling over this distraught Princess Leia, but it looks like a platform floating through space, basically the same environment as the last two issues. Plus, Luke's lightsaber is red. But don't let the cover trip you up. The artwork in this issue is by far the best in this 6-run film adaptation. This is where the comic shines through. Infantino's formerly jagged and somewhat unsettling depiction of characters, vehicles, and weaponry suddenly takes a completely new form. The artwork is much more realistic and appealing, but still keeps a stylized look on the iconic scenes from the movie. The coloring is used very creatively to convey the emotions and terror of the action, and this comic has a very cinematic feel to it. I'd actually argue that the action shown here is even superior to the movie at some points. Just the way that they describe the intense maneuvers and emotions that these fighters go through is incredible. Take this scene for example. In the movie, it looks like this. In the comic, it reads, "Unable to turn in time, Luke's fighter plunges into the expanding ball of superheated gases, where Luke Skywalker knows the terrors of the damned." Intense heat licks at the streaking spacecraft. The hot winds of hell buffet it to and fro until Luke's teeth rattle. Then, he is through and clear on the other side. Pretty improved if you ask me. As amazing as the artwork and writing of this issue is, it has way too many inconsistencies and errors. Red Squadron is called Blue Squadron for no rhyme or reason, the Death Star is shown upside down while in the movie it's right side up, Wedge Antilles' ship is depicted as a Y-Wing, but it's still part of the Blue Squadron, and later in the issue he's suddenly piloting his normal X-Wing. Like I pointed out in comic number 5, the TIE Fighter pilots are extremely inconsistent in their design. They really can't make up their minds about how to look. Luke's helmet insignia randomly turns upside down in one shot. And in one panel, Vader exclaims, "By the immortal gods of the Sith." There is so much I could pick apart about that quote as to how it's inaccurate, but it's just too amazing. And as many issues as there are, the only real problem I have with the book is simply the title. It looks like creativity was out the airlock on this one. One of my favorite things to come out of this issue is the nickname that Biggs gives to Blue 4, aka Jek Tono Porkins. After his heroic sacrifice, Porkins was remembered by Darklighter, "So long, Piggy, you will be avenged." As funny as that may be, it actually gives us a fantastic introspective into Biggs' emotional thought process. And we view the same experience with Luke when Biggs dies. Again, this script does not disappoint. And one thing that I really have to point out is how this comic clears up a huge Star Wars dispute. Why doesn't Chewbacca get a medal? Well, this 1977 comic book is the earliest source to give an explanation. It reads, wordlessly, Princess Leia places gold medallions first around Han Solo's neck, then Luke Skywalker's. Chewbacca the Wookiee too will have his own medal, but he will have to put that on himself. Few space princesses are that tall. It may seem like a bit of a cop-out, or even a cover-up for galactic racism, but I was just so thrilled to see them actually try to make things right for this character. They further explain this in the 1980 comic strip, The Day After the Death Star. Here they show Leia getting up on a table and placing Chewie's medallion around his neck, finally giving him the honor he deserves. Now, to rank this book. Nearly every panel in this issue is breathtaking. There are so many shots that bring you right into the action, with brilliant coloring and fantastic penciling. So I chose the most symbolic image in this book for the winner. I think that, while it might not be the most spectacular scene from this issue, the final shot is the most important of them all. And the best quote from the comic has to be that quirky Vader line from earlier, "By the immortal gods of the Sith." Also notice how the phrase Star Warriors is used here, which is coincidentally what I call the subscribers of this channel. Overall, issue number 6, Is This the Final Chapter?, earns 10 out of 10 X-Wings. This really was a great way to end off this comic book film adaptation. I hope you all enjoyed today's episode. Now we get to start off on what these vintage Marvel comics are truly known for, their strange, original storylines. Tune in next time to see Han Solo and the Wookiee Chewbacca adventure to faraway planets. Who knows what kind of trouble they'll run into? Subscribe to StarGeek for weekly Star Wars content. If you enjoyed the video, please shoot that like button at light speed. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram by clicking the links in the description. And you can check out my last video, Factor Beam 27, on Admiral Akbar, if you just click on the thumbnail. You can also watch my review of the first 3 issues of this series. Until we meet again in a galaxy far, far away, this has been StarGeek. I just have to read off a couple more lines from issue number 6. They're just too good not to point out. 30 minutes. That's how long the main rebel base has before the Death Star, gigantic battle station of the Galactic Empire, will be in position to destroy it. Now, like angry mosquitoes, the rebel fighters streak upward from their hidden hangars on the 4th moon of Yavin, to attack a technological terror whose firepower dwarfs that of even the Imperial War Fleet. It's fantastic stuff. Definitely worth reading if you get the chance.